My name is Ayça. I'm a creative technologist, and in spring 2025, the creative technology is moving super fast, and I want to reflect on what's possible today and what we can do as a human in the loop, so we don't create the same innovation when we are doing application. I specialize in extended reality design and AI workflows with human in the loop. You can think as creative technology as applied innovation management. Most of the time I do create creative concepts and show people that, okay, we have this new technology, how this can become a business, and create safe spaces for people to do hands-on experiment, because it's not really logical to give people AI and expect them to know, like we didn't do that 20 years ago with the computers. So we have an ambitious schedule. I have one breaking news, and we will have a section about creative technology to be inspired, and some of my early experiments, and I have some tips on AI, making AI films. So this is for people to, most of the time I see people, engineering teams, they don't like having politics. So sometimes they feel that their ideas are not really heard about. So what we can do is that you can have this production power to conduct your ideas better, to have that project approved maybe. So the breaking news, now we can generate super graphic designs. Who wants to guess its prompt? What did I write to get these? This is my first generation, and I didn't handpick them. I guess. Can someone please? What did I write to get? I know your name. Okay.
You said a woman said goodbye in Dutch.
Okay, good guess. It was just Totsies, and I get these. It was an easy guess, so I thought it would be, yeah. Okay, so, or what you can do is that give us kind of storyline to be generated. This is if you like philosophy, it's a Zizek's short story that it says, a man goes to a cafe and asks for coffee without milk, and the waiter says, we are run out of milk, but we have cream. Can I give you coffee without cream? So now the problem is, it shouldn't have the coffee because he is asking, but in a way that's really good graphic design. How did I get involved with these? I studied electronics engineering, and this was my graduation project about creative AI in 2020. That I needed to read a lot of papers and try to find a way to how can we visualize these in a way that I see a paper data visualization and decide if to invest my time in it or not. A few months ago I revisited the idea. So this is the idea of that, okay, if I'm interested in visual consistency, emotional impact, and then I can go further with research. In August 2022, I was one of the early testers of DALL-E 2, and this is a song on Spotify you can find, Hennessy Fly, and we did a cover page, and then I realized, okay, this can be an end product for people to release their music. Now I'm convinced that we are learning new ways of creating and seeing. What AI workflow with human in the loop does is that it provides structure. You can think it as a big flow chart, and most of the time it has conceptual layers for people to communicate with each other, but also let's say there is a technical block, and then it's also documented for people to understand each other. It offers observability, and it helps creative technologists, engineers, thinkers to work with each other easier. So this is how do I approach creating AI workflows, is that now what is more important is that not what we create, but how we create, but what and why we create, like to ask why and what is really important. And I always start with pen and paper. because it still works. And when we are writing down things, it's really good to not have digital influence before you start creating it on it. I usually create a vision document to communicate with people, and until it's okay, I iterate, then release it to the world, because it will never be perfect. What can creative technology look like? Is that it can be a set design. This is a pearl vest that I did for my birthday and wanted to have cool photo shoot. That's possible. Or this is a creative concept design for cemeteries. In Peru, there is a day, Dia de los Difuntos, and people go and cook some meals and go to cemeteries to celebrate life. And can we make an augmented reality layer for your grandma's recipes goes to your children and have some kind of information shared? Using AR for ideation, for example, these pufferfish needed to, at first they were for concept design for collecting plastic from canals. At first, pufferfish needed to have claws, it needed to fly, and iteratively we go on with the scientists and artists. So other thing that we did for the application is science communication. What we observed for the university students, it's too abstract to tell them we are making nano robots and you should read these papers. So it's easier for them to think about it, and obviously it's not accurate, but it's good to imagine. Most of the time, I go to ancient sites. This is a passion project. I go to archaeological sites and take pictures to imagine what could it look like. This case study is for people to teach history to children and show what's possible. So I'm not sure if it's visible, but in this one there was a restoration architect worked on these models that we generated these. With the first one and the middle one, it's just the things that sculpture face, and the other one is with the right terminology to be accurate, more accurate, but it's again a speculation. What is interesting with augmented reality and AR combined is interesting, can be. So this is a AR generated target, and I modeled some these things and take 3D pictures of them and turned it into 3D object and put it in augmented reality. What is interesting is that now this is a gallery, can be hosted anywhere carried with my target image. Another thing is that, so this is a 3D mode TR digital wearable. I make this in my studio and take 3D objects of it, and when it's published, I'm not claiming it's more ecological, but it means that I don't produce this 1,000 times, but when it's published also in the Snapchat, let's say, it's already globally distributed. But another way to use AR in creative purposes is to have again a 3D object, and when you are creating the 3D model, you can generate the textures, then apply that. Or generate augmented reality makeup. Again, here it doesn't require to produce the products. So there is 3 phases of creation process here. The first one is that allowing yourself to experiment and taking yourself as if it's serious, that okay, I'm creating AI art, and then let yourself see the possibilities. And sometimes you don't need to generate one more, it's just sometimes you need to take a break and come back. And the creation part is that okay, now this is very intentional act of creation, and you can become an AI artist in these steps. It's really easy, it never been this easy. So what I want to talk about with AI films is when you generate cool videos and put them together, most of the time it doesn't make a story. So if you are good with storytelling, it can be interesting to experiment with this. And once you generated these cool videos, they need to have a similar look. So there is an example on this. What I usually do, so I give an image and say, okay, slightly move them, and then I get a longer version of it because it knows how to construct the detailed visual prompt. And I simplify it and see how does it work. So it's an iterative process to use existing projects. Another way to create videos is that if you have two images, like the cinema, you think that moving images becomes a video. And if you use simple enough videos, these are my profile pictures and it's just a liminal space. So you can think that, okay, this model is trying to guess in between these images, and it's interesting to explore. Or, for example, in the beginning, Amsterdam Central, Utrecht Central, and a train station in the Netherlands. So when you use simple prompts, it's good to start with something that you already know. This is a prompt for a woman in Istanbul Bosphorus looking at the sky. And I like to add summer in 90s, so it can show me how could it differ. What is important is that eliminating the repetitive task, let the AI do, but you need to be the person who is leading the creation process. And I have an example about what can it look like. Hope the sound.
Take a deep breath in and relax.
So here I wanted to focus on the costume design, and this woman needs to feel like they belong in the same room. So here, how did I create this? I don't know what this is. To make them look like that they belong to the same world, you can use presets, and I will show what is a preset. How can you design presets? In a second. And my mental threshold for crowded is 38, so I'm a bit,
Take a deep
here. So I generated these costume designs to be different looking people, and these were the eliminated ones in hundreds of them. And this film was produced in under 72 hours, so it's quite ambitious. With the preset, you need to give some phrase to be repeating on top of your visual prompt. So this, I decided to talk about the backdrop and the lighting, and I wanted to have these models to have similar attitude. And what you can do is that if you have very similar images, videos, if you blend them, you can have cool visual effects to impress more people. So this is a simulation production method, is a approach to how to create AI films. And I have one actionable workflow that you can use it to create new AI art. The simplified thing is about that, okay, experiment, iterate, and curate. And memory AI art is a workflow. So the idea is that we are taking a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, but we rarely revisit them. When was the last time you take a look at your gallery to watch the fireworks video you took? But is there a way that we can use these videos before we get older? So the thing is, it's a production method. So other than reading the memory AI art workflow, you can give it to any LLM to assist you the production process. And if you create an AI art, let me know. This is an AI art, memory AI art example. So with context, it becomes art, which is that this is my yellow chair story. When we were on family vacations, my parents were asking me, what did you miss from home? And I said, my yellow chair, which is this one. What I am really excited about this individuals having production power is that now we can have time travel, or we can have the unimportant people's stories to be produced. So we can see different variations. So if you are into more creating this kind of things, is that two books that I can strongly recommend, and these are the people to follow. And yeah, this is me, creative technologist, and I have one last announcement that we've started a page on LinkedIn called Event Gatekeepers, and we curate events in creativity, technology, and entrepreneurship. So this event was also in the list. It's very useful. Let me know if, yeah, that's all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Ayça. Questions? You're here.
So, do you think that as the models become more powerful, people get less creative?
It might, but if you are always person deciding what to be created, I don't see a reason that people, like, if you let always be prompt to be written by any LLM, it might affect us. But if you are the person who is deciding act of creation, I don't think so. We can get really easily lazy. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk, by the way. Any thoughts on copyright? Your opinion, at least?
Good question. The thing is, like, this is my personal opinion about this. So, for example, if the artist doesn't want to be used the data trained on, that shouldn't be allowed. For example, if it's making the Miyazaki said, I don't want this to be happening, obviously. On the other hand, after 70 years, it belongs to the art history, and it's copyright free. Sorry?
After the creator dies plus 70.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. After they die and 70 years, that's part of history. So I'm not sure if we need to reflect on the 70 years or not. I'm still thinking.
Fair enough.
You should watch Winnie the Pooh Blood Honey thing, because it went out of copyright and the creators died. So anybody could do anything with Winnie the Pooh.
That's good.
I have a question. So as these models come out and bigger and bigger companies are working on it, usually they get nerfed after a while. They get very heavily censored. There's not stuff that you can do with it that is useful. I mean, you can generate some stuff with it, but it can, because of it being heavily censored, heavily nerfed. What do you think? Do you feel like there are open models out there that are not that heavily censored, that heavily nerfed, not for generating NSFW content, but even trying to get more creative, right? I don't know if you can do them with the big models coming out from the big labs. Like we're already seeing 4.0 heavily censoring people who want to generate Ghibli art, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you see models out there that are coming out in the open source space that are going to make a difference, or how do you really deal with this as an artist?
There are many ways to combine these image generation models. So if you combine enough models to have production quality, that's possible. And if there is, I don't know how to reply to this. Like if the open source people keep doing it, if they stop doing it, I wouldn't be really happy about this. But I'm not doing actively anything to create an open source model, so yeah, I'm creating site.
Yeah, I was wondering if there is kind of a tactic or kind of principles on which to base the toolkit on what is now being able for video or coming for 3D, because it's like starting the intermediate kind of studio, very difficult to base on which tools to foreseeable future to handle, and also for, well, let's say educating like junior to middle kind of artists, designers. It's well, a bit like lost. And also, is there like a general principle to look upon like 1 or 2 years which choices to make, which guidelines, pipelines?
There is no formatted resource on this, but I'm actively working on creating open source learning workflows for people to start experimenting. Because what I know is that you also know as thinkers that okay, once you create one experiment and it's enjoyable, there is no turning point from that. So I'm trying to find new ways to help people with workflows. So what I can suggest is to check out this one, Memory and Art. Or if you are more into technical part, this one is good, simulation production method. Yeah, that's a resource, but it's not a toolkit.
No, about it, but because you're also like an artist, I was wondering about like the combination of like art in itself, but also on general art principles, universal art principles to be applied to, let's say, the choices which are now there, but also in a kind of management way, which will be funded and the credits. So is there more people like you that are also like connected to like with the team that can also oversee in a domain like fashion or like, I don't know, like a video or like VFX or something?
Yeah, there is no schools on this yet, but maybe they invite us next year, so then we can work on Liège University maybe. Yeah.
So the last question, there is not really in the world a kind of like hotspot, like a source kind of...
you can check Hug Art Space,
yeah.
HUG. They are doing workshops, like some, like let's say 2 weeks workshops.
Yeah.
But there is no school that I'm aware of that is teaching this. Or to filmmaking, Runway Academy is an interesting resource.
Yeah.
They teach very small, short videos that's easy to consume.
Yeah.
Or I have a YouTube channel.
All right, thank you so much for
Thank you.
the chat.
Show
That
the
was
slide
great.
with the books one more time.
Yes, of course.
Alright,
It's fun. Here.
appreciate it.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Okay. So next up we have